When I was young, I grew up in family student housing for Cornell University. My parents were grad students. There was 200 families, 200 apartments, more. And every apartment had families, and they were all connected in blocks of 10. There was a community center nearby, and periodically we'd get to watch movies. Now, lest I date myself, this was before the VCR. So they had films and reels, and they not you didn't have one that's just a family. So the community could use one. This is the first way I got to watch Superman. There's a scene in Superman that it really scared me. It's funny, there are all sorts of things going on in there, but the scene that scared me is when he's climbing up a sheer cliff and there's all this wind flying at him. It just looks like he's going to fall the whole time, and the drop is just gigantic. Years later, I learned that they actually filmed that scene in a wind tunnel on the ground. He was crawling, and they blew wind at him, and he was making it look like it was difficult to move forward, and then they just turned the reel like this. Never knew. You couldn't tell. They did a decent job. That was special effects back in the day. I cannot say enough about paradigms. Do you know this word? If you do, just, indulge me for a minute. A paradigm is the way in which you perceive reality. It's more than a lens because it's a framework. It's certain basic understandings that allow you to engage everything else. And unless you're pretty conscious of how you think and perceive, you might not even notice that paradigms exist, much less that you may be trapped within them. As a result, you can experience changes, transformations, new stimuli, and you won't be able to discern that the way in which you are understanding, retaining, and integrating them is based on preconceptions that are built in a paradigm that you hold. One of these paradigms is up and down. Higher is better and lower is bad. Down is hell and up is heaven. This is a very profound paradigm. Now, here's the thing. You can have divine experiences, and the energy is present. You can't just make all energies move and disappear based on your paradigm, but your paradigm is how you filter it. So if divine energy comes into your presence for whatever reason, and you have a really rooted understanding that up is heaven and down is hell, you are going to remember that experience through this lens. That somehow you got really high and then you slipped. You fell. Today we are here to talk about making heaven on earth. I think heaven is a valuable embrace. It's a valuable understanding. And we need to transform our relationship to it. There are tangible changes you can make to put yourself in tune with heaven. When you're not in tune with heaven, it's almost impossible to recognize where it is. You will catch glimmers throughout the course of your life, maybe in dreams, maybe in stray moments. Often, this is more likely to happen during profound changes, but it might slip through your fingers. I'm here today to talk with you about how to make it normal. This might not seem exciting at first because the point is, in a way, is to take some of the excitement out of the equation. When you take some of the excitement out of the equation, you center. When you center, It's not exciting anymore. It might be like, oh man, it slipped away. I lost it. But the thing here is you can't live on a high. Well, wait, look at the words high, on a high. What does that mean? Well, that's a way of saying I live a normal life and my intense positive moments are highs. So you measure them as if they're higher than the rest of your life. Now, in a literal sense, there might be a high frequency, but a high frequency is different than up and down. It's tempting to interpret it as if it's up, but a high frequency is actually a shorter wavelength. It has nothing to do with up and down. You can graph it as up and down, but that's a choice that you make in how to understand it. I'm inviting you to understand something very simple that can have profound consequences to your reality. When you evolve, when you enlighten, a goal that will be much more effective for you than getting higher is to expand your range. So you learn to embody lower frequencies also. This is the origin of the term sacred creatures. Sacred creatures is the name of the course that I have online, and you can check it out. There's a video introducing it. I'm currently producing that video to make it a little better, but the course has begun. You can join it whenever you want. The intention here is to invite you into a relationship with yourself where, as you transcend the boundaries of what you have thought of as normal, you get away from the sense of getting away from who you are. I think one of the most natural responses people have to awakened moments is that you get this glimpse of how beautiful divine presence is. And, whether you put it into conscious thought or not, you embrace the sense that you can do this. You don't have to wait till you die. You don't have to go somewhere else. This is a key transcendental moment. And you need to hold it. You need to hold it because this embrace here is to suggest that there is actually a fluid relationship between where you are and heaven. Heaven isn't somewhere else. Now, wait, it is in a way. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you remember. In a very real way, you could go to what you'd experience as another place. And you could get that it's heaven. People don't hate. You can't even hate. You can't do violence. You have much more tangible presence. You can invite reality to change, and it will change with you. And it will change within constraints that are beautiful, loving. And yet, the invitation is to recognize that there is a fluid connection between where you are and such a place, such a way, such a world. And the best way to get there is to make it be here. Now, this is akin to imagining something as if you're climbing a vertical wall and learning that you only have to crawl or even walk. If you believe that you have to climb up a sheer mountain cliff, you have to climb up a sheer mountain cliff. It's astounding that this is possible, but it's really like this. There is genuine, energetic, spiritual territory, and you can make progress by climbing. And when you climb, you can sense the progress. You can sense the transformation of your mental awareness. You can sense the spiritual presence shift, get higher in frequency. But this is not the only way to move. And in fact, believe me when I tell you, if you believe that you have to climb, you can fall. If you believe you have to climb, you can fall. You know what happens? You climb and you'll hear the message, don't look down. You'll hear it. You'll hear it. And when you look down, you can see like sort of exaggerated violence and sexuality, as if it's far away, but it's like tempting. It's pulling. There's a magnetism to it. And as long as you interpret the paradigm like this, you could fall. If you pay attention too much to this, you go, whoop, and you'll crash down from whatever progress you've made. So here's the paradigm. You're gonna walk. We addressed this last week. For the past several weeks, I've been doing live feed classes that invite you into different aspects of this relationship to heaven. And in many ways, this is the week where we put things together. I'm going to introduce you to another metaphor before we move on. When I was young, I read a book. Much later, they made it into a movie, Ender's Game. In Ender's Game, they have all these little children who they're teaching to be soldiers. And they're young. They're like 6, 7. And they're taught through a game. Now, the game is held on a space station. So all you need to know is there's no intrinsic gravity at first. They're put into this chamber that's weightless. And the chamber, when you see it, there's a goal on one end and there's a goal on the other. And they have to do some stuff to move back and forth. And they have these guns that freeze each other. They're moving. They start on one side, each team, and they're trying to conquer the other person's goal. And Ender, the hero of the story, takes his team and teaches them to say the enemy's gate is down. And when they perceive down, they reorient how they move. And when they reorient how they move, they actually have this strategic superiority because they're no longer thinking in terms of being upside down when they go towards this direction. They're moving down, and it gives them an advantage in how they perceive. Now, that's a simple shift. They shifted from thinking they're moving sideways to thinking they're moving down. I'm suggesting you do the opposite. We often interpret heaven as going up, interpret it as going over, and then interpret it as being right here. In many ways, all of my work resolves back to this. How do you behave? How do you perceive? How do you think? How do you feel? How do you dream? How do you pray? How do you act as if you're in heaven? When you presume that this is possible, it becomes more possible. And that's where you need to start. It's the paradigm. And I've talked about this in many contexts. The skeptic's dilemma. When you're skeptical of this truth too much, when you hold the skepticism like a bludgeon, like prove it to me, I need more confirmation, you've already done away with it. You're holding a paradigm that says your mind needs proof before you act. Now look, there's nothing particularly complicated about me saying this. You need to live as if you're in heaven. When you do, you make heaven here. When you make heaven here, you're in heaven. What if it's that simple? Now look, I'm not suggesting that the genuine end goal here is to live in a world covered in pollution where there's still tons of greed and even murder, rape, and all sorts of violations. But the point is, this is where we are. In order to transform where we are, we need to believe in our ability to transform where we are. If you have a paradigm that suggests that we're here in heaven somewhere else, you've already handicapped your ability to have an impact on the world around you dramatically. Now, first of all, let's question these assumptions. Really? What world do you live in? Seriously, every single person here. I wonder if we could do a poll. I could do a community poll when this is done. How many of you have lived in hell? Have lived in anything that is like hell? How many of you have managed to change it? Even just some. All I'm suggesting in many ways is that you keep going. It is very likely that many of you have come out of terrifying situations. I know I've come out of something that was very close to hell. The experience was real, and my progress out of it was much like climbing. Felt like climbing. But at a certain point, I learned to change it into this. I use another metaphor, which I find to be very helpful. It's built into the language. When you're living in under certain circumstances that are just, no one would suggest that it's okay. There's too much, there's too little love, there's too much abusiveness in your life. Then heaven looks like a peak. And so you think of in terms of light enlightenment, you think in terms of higher, you think of in terms of rising. And in certain waves of your life, in the weather of your spiritual existence, you will find your way up. And at a certain point, you'll find yourself at a peak. And when you're at this peak, something dramatic happens. There's no longer a wall in front of you, right? So there's nothing to hold on to, but also you can see in all directions. Spiritually, this happens. You get yourself to a place where you have this perspective, a broad perspective over much of your own life and reality around you. And if you haven't experienced this at all, I want you to imagine it. Now, you get to the peak, and I'm going to do something devastating to some of you. Some of you have had peaks of spiritual experience. You've embraced it, you own it, you've retained it, you've come back, you've become a vegetarian, you've left the wrong career, you've made big changes. I'm encouraging you to think of your peak experience, that peak moment. It's just a peak. It's just a peak. It was just a peak. Now that can feel awful. It's like, how can you tell me that my glimpse of heaven? Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, it's just a glimpse. And I'm asking you to embrace the idea, the relationship to this that suggests you want to diminish the intensity of that moment by making it normal. Wait, diminish the intensity? Let's think about this. When you live in a world where cars drive at 10 miles per hour, everything moves at 10 miles per hour. You're used to thinking that way. You're used to considering concerns about, who could potentially get in your way, about, how much time you have before you need to turn, before another car bumps into you, or before you hit a horse. The world used to be this way when cars first started. They could move maybe 10, 20 miles per hour max. When people learned to make cars that could go significantly faster, everything changed. I'm betting that when someone had the first car and it could go at 10 miles per hour, it was astounding. It was like, oh my God, this is incredible. I can go in this car. It's moving. I press this pedal and it's moving. So this was a peak experience for them. They had never had anything like this, and now they have it. Well, every experience that's normal, everything that is a habit, everything that is woven into the fabric of your life becomes normal. Living with heaven is no longer extreme because it becomes normal. You don't actually diminish the intensity, but the intensity becomes normal. What does that feel like? I'm inviting you to ask yourself, what does it feel like? Because in so many circumstances, people enter the experience and then it's like they climb, and and the energy comes in and it's like vibing and it feels incredible. And it's like, no, don't let it slip away. And then they slide back down. I'm inviting you to realize it's all your paradigm. It's all the paradigm that messes it up. The paradigm you can live with involves a different kind of transformation, but there's a critical challenge to making this work that we have to address before I can invite you in to the new paradigm. And before I do that, I want to see who's here. Say hi. Business, welcome. It's so good to have you here. Morning to you, morning to everyone. Tam, I'm so glad. Angie, good to have you here. Oh my gosh, you've been on a tear. Angie, I've just been recently realizing, it's too bad that a channel doesn't have I have a console that allows me to see all the latest comments so I can respond to them rather easily, like a channel, the YouTube studio enables you to do this. It's too bad other people can't look at a console of the latest comments all over a channel because Angie's been like watching a lot of different videos and making extraordinary comments that are really valuable. And it would be really beautiful if people knew how to, were able to tune in to all the different exciting comments on a channel rather than having to go video by video. Angie, thank you for your presence and your awesome contributions lately. I know. I was really enjoying that road rage start. Excellent. I didn't get into that. Maybe we should address it. It's helpful. Emily, welcome here. I just saw your comment over on the Kevin Moore show this morning. I was drawn over. Thank you for being here. That was just awesome. Flower Lioness. Oh my goodness. Hello to you. I love these incredible names that tell me so much about who you are. I have a wonderful friend who sings a song about wildflowers and lions. Really, really beautiful. Optimistic Moon. Good morning to you. Being present in the light of the moon is like it's like the searchlight. It's like the stage light of our reality, right? The moon's light is so present, and what the moon chooses to tune with. The moon's making more choices than you might think. You might think it's up to you whether to pay attention to the moon. Sometimes you try to pay attention to the moon. The moon's like, get out of my vibe. I embrace your name. Labels. Hey, you all to you. Claudia. Good morning from Seattle, indeed. I hope it is a good morning there. Ithaca is becoming more and more like Seattle every year. Tam, yes, yes, I am. Having done my first interview, I'm open to more. So I've been getting suggestions from folks. I haven't really reached out to many yet, but I've been getting suggestions, and it's really inspiring and empowering. I like it. People draw out different sides of me than I do, and I've been I have an interesting experience, and a very beautiful consciousness now. Like I love my life, and I've been learning so many things on so many levels at once that I couldn't. I try to like sit down and list all the things that I want to share, and it never works because in many ways it's like my experience, my mind is just here. And when I tune into one part of it, it just sort of unfolds. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I've been thinking about that, that, and that. But I couldn't remember it all at once if my life depended on it. So I just try to go week to week and be clear about what would be most valuable to share. But when I talk to people, it brings out a very different side of things. And so I'm beginning to think, I've gotten the foundations of my work out well enough that there are repeated lessons that I know that I want to be able to help people rest in. Because if you do the practices, the key ring practices with yoga and meditation regularly enough, a lot starts to wake up, as many of you know. And often when people write to me or make comments, I'm able to say, hey, look at this video because this addresses the concern you have. And for years, I was so worried. Like I worry about people. Like I care, like coming from a space of care, like to the extent that you're awakening and have a lot of stimuli and have a lot of awareness, I want to be able to support you and be present in a way that's effective. So I've just been kind of obsessed with getting this foundation down, and all of a sudden I'm like, I think this is good enough. Like it's solid enough. I have enough strength to this that I feel confident that I can really offer people a good support structure. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'd love to spread this work more. And it's really exciting to feel that and to be open. And so I want to be clear. Yes, I'm open to doing more videos. If any of you have channels or know of channels that'd be appropriate, let me know. I tend to only do things that come rather fluidly, but more and more things seem to be working that way these days. Welcome to all of you. I will remind you that I now have Super Chat and I do accept donations. It feels great. I got my first Super Chat donations last week. It's very inspiring. I also really appreciate the likes. It makes a difference. Watching, learning about the YouTube algorithm, likes and shares and comments are all, really heavy in the way they say, oh, this is a valuable video, I'm going to share it. And it's neat to watch my work be shared more and more of just because of the shift in attention. It's been just enough to get me over thresholds where YouTube's sort of more excited about it. And I'm excited about that. Today, I want to invite you into, here, I'm going to take my glasses back off. It helps me tune in to what I most need to share. There are several things I'd like you to look out for. These are, I don't even know how to characterize them. They're schools of awakening knowledge that all help you stay awake. And they help you stay tuned in a way that brings heaven into this life, into this world. And you are called to be a catalyst for bringing heaven to life. I want you to be present with that. You might have to move through a sense of like, who, me? I'm not worthy. How could it be? Oh, I am worthy. Like big shifts in sort of an egoic relationship to this invitation. And that egoic relationship is a paradigm that you can change. Now, a real awakening, in my experience, is hand in hand with an ego death. When you really awaken, your sense of who you've been in the past dies. Now, again, there's an elegant shift here because we spend much of our lives from birth until a certain point of awakening in a basic consistency that I can teach you to understand is a certain balance of color in your aura. The color balance is sort of like saying you have a clear canvas. It's consistent. It's not necessarily clear, but it's consistent in a way that you rely on. You don't even know you're relying on it. There are certain fundamental energies that are present and have been present in your life since birth. And that's like the canvas. Now, it isn't all white. There's color to it. There's even pattern to it. But the consistency of it allowed you to create yourself as you knew yourself when you were young. An ego death involves messing around with the canvas, messing around with core vibrations that were always stable. And their stability was the bedrock of how you responded to things. And all of a sudden, they die. Get it? D-Y-E. They change color. And not only did they change color, but they start to continue to change. So all of a sudden, you're living with shifts in vibration that used to be stable. Well, I can invite you to trust immediately. You need this. There's no way to engage a broader range of reality. There's no way to remember, and there's no way to be present in a heavenly experience unless you allow those core vibrations to change. But psychologically, it's very challenging. It's why there's such a close connection between awakening and experience of like, am I going insane? The invitation within this is to learn to be at peace with these changes. So once you've gone through a transformation where you've died, your ego has died, now you can have a new relationship to these heavenly forces. It's not you're worthy. It's not you're amazing. It's this is your job. You're needed. You are needed. And in order to function effectively, you need to make a very basic shift. And this is not necessarily going to happen unless you put effort and attention into it. Now, any degree of awakening that you've experienced makes this possible, but it's up to you to do the work to make it real. And there's a difference. Just seeing something, just experiencing it briefly is like, it's like a taste test. It's like you heard the music a little, but then you have to make it real. And the basic shift involves you stop understanding yourself in relationship to society. You stop. Stop. Just stop. It's not about how much money you make. It's not about how educated you are. It's not about the size of your house. It's not about the size of your car. Thank you so much. I don't know who that is yet because I can't see it, but I can see it, the donation, and I'm grateful. Your ego exists in relation to society. So your ego has a consistency and vibration, and that consistency fits in. And it's normal and healthy in plenty of ways to want to fit in. But when you go through this kind of transformation, you're not going to fit in anymore. Not in any of the old ways. And you can learn to measure how you're doing on this. First of all, you're not allowed to judge yourself. That's egoic too. You're not failing. There's no failure here. Like there's no failure or success that's sort of like part of your identity, because your identity doesn't measure this way anymore. I really have to deal with a lot of people who essentially they want to be A+ students at Awakening, right? So then they're like, oh no, I made a mistake. No. It is so deeply normal and natural to sort of go back and forth between trying to understand yourself in relationship to society and moving into what's healthy. Health begins with your connection to the earth. This is where it all falls apart, because for many people, this contradicts the heaven-hell paradigm. In many ways, many religious traditions, particularly Christian, have inculcated this sort of deeply unhealthy attitude that the body is bad and heaven is up, and we're trying to get there and deny this. And nothing could be further from the truth. You need your body to be in tune with heaven, but you need to go into your body. The astounding truth, the radical, like unbelievable, it's both terrifying and gorgeous at the same time, is that many people, and I want to say most, because certainly most people I've met in my life have lived in relationship to a system, a societal structure. It's not grounded. It's like, it's in this like purgatory netherworld of existence, pop culture based. Now look, there are plenty of people who are beautiful and lovely in pop culture, but the point is pop culture as we've known it is like totally out of tune with both heaven and the earth. Both. It's in this horrible sort of in-between space where just like, I can't get over like how unbelievably, absurdly, contagiously violent it is. The patterns expressed in so many mainstream sources are just like, I can't get over it. Like they kill people in so many different ways. And then they treat people terribly in so many different ways. And they use sex as like a winning game in so many different ways. And there's so little love. There's so little real love. It's in a netherworld. It's in this alternate vibrational reality that doesn't have a place in the future. And the reason it's important to know this is you are probably still addicted to trying to fit into this in some way because you just want to be a part of things. I know how much I wanted to be a part of things. I wanted to find a place for everything I was learning. And the reality is the place is more real than anything I was leaving. The place is actually right here. Most people aren't here. They're not here. Most people are not present in their bodies. They haven't ever gotten into their bodies. This could sound like an astounding truth. It could be like, how's that even possible? Believe me, it's possible. Most people have never learned to get into their body, because when you're in your body, you're present on entirely different frequencies, and you start to feel a range of feelings that is well beyond anything you knew before. Now, look, I think it's appropriate to ask, like, how do I know? Who am I to tell you all this? And I think I've hesitated to stress this because I don't want to create distance between where I am and where you are. I want to invite you into something healthier, but I do have to share with you that much of the way I'm able to be so centered in something that's healthier is that I literally spent 10 years with almost no money. I'd go weeks without using money. I had food stamps often, and that's all. That's it. And I traveled and lived as simply as I possibly could. And I assure you, I experienced exquisite sensations that were well beyond anything I had ever felt when I had much more money. I mean, I'd owned a house before then. I had a well-paying job in computers, several. I knew what it was like to have money, to go out to a restaurant whenever I wanted, to buy all my friends drinks, to go to World Series games, to go to any concert I wanted. None of the sensations that I experienced in all of that time approached what I could experience when I was on the edge. When I was on the edge and I had very little, it's the reverse of the process we were talking about before. I'm talking about if you've never been in a car and you're suddenly in a car, it's amazing, right? Oh my God, this thing works. It's magic, transcendent. When you have very little, when you're very light, when you carry everything you own, everything is so impacting. If someone gives you a piece of fruit and you've been hungry, oh, it tastes so good. It tastes so good. I go with the flow in these and I maintain my intention to share. And I feel challenged this week because in many ways I feel it's necessary to invite you to see the experience that I've had so that I can invite you into it. But I don't want to create the sense that you have to have the experience I've had in order to be invited into this. During these years, when I lived light, I experienced times that I thought I might die, over 20. Now, some of them probably I wasn't realistically near death, but I experienced it that way. One time, I had a knife in my throat. Circumstances don't matter. The guy asked me for all my money. I said, I just have $1. He said, give it to me. I said, no. I said, I wanted to use it to buy a cup of coffee. There was a special $1 small cup of coffee at a local coffee shop. I don't know what gave me the audacity to say that. I was praying. I say I don't know, but I remembered being with Jesus. And I remembered planning for a moment, praying ahead if I was ever threatened with death, that I would allow Jesus to speak through me. And that is what I said. Let me tell you, that was the best cup of coffee I have ever had. He pulled the knife away, and I walked down the street, and I got coffee. And I sat there with that cup of coffee, and I cherished that cup of coffee. I didn't put anything in it. I'm sharing this to assert to you that experiences aren't experiences. Coffee is not coffee. A house is not a house. A car is not a car. A day is not a day. Every day, every house, every car, every cup of coffee, every piece of fruit can be a radically different experience. And it's not an objective quality of the thing. I live surrounded by a culture which constantly reinforced an idea that external reality is objective. It's present, it's tangible, you can measure it. This apple is better than this apple. We live in this absurd and insanely brutal culture now that pits musicians against each other. When I was young, they didn't make musicians fight like this. But about the time that I got off the cultural train, they started American Idol, where they take these beautiful, creative souls and they say, who's better? Fight with that person. Perform and then say, I'm better than you. Think about that. Think about that. That's fucking awful. That's like spiritual murder. I call them cannibals. You can look at artists who are basically cannibals. You can identify them. They eat each other. They eat other artists. That's what they do. That's how they function. It's gross. It's really gross. It's really gross. You're essentially taking beautiful souls and telling them to tear each other down. And we're going to choose one. Oh, look at it. We. You want to know who taught me this? Kurt Cobain. Here we are now, entertainers. You need to step out. You need to step out. You need to stop. It doesn't mean you can't listen to music. It doesn't mean you can't watch things. It means you don't play those games. Don't believe in a world that's encouraging people to tear each other down. And don't believe in a world where up involves more attention. More attention is not always better. More is not always better. There's a place for you, but it's not intrinsically measured in relation to the culture yet. You need to measure yourself in relation to your connection to heaven. And you could do it. You could do it. Let me tell you, I walked through 20 times when I thought I might die. Eventually, I started to feel immune. Like, what the fuck is going on? Magical shit would just happen that would protect me. Again and again and again. People would just show up because I held my heart. I would literally put my hand on my heart when I was scared and breathe. And it worked. I ended up believing that yoga is the most powerful martial art. Really. I didn't even have to hit anybody. I never punched anybody. And I was confronted with violence again and again and again. And I'm not encouraging you to be reckless. I can't even measure how good you are at it. I'm telling you, it's possible. It's possible to tune in so deeply to the love right here that you resonate heavenly divine forces all around you, and it bends the world around you. It makes the world around you more heavenly. And the challenge here is to shift, to let go of the violence and the fears as an intrinsic measure. There's still fuel. There's still fuel in this world. The people want to know that we can somehow control the violences because we know they're still here. And as long as they're still here, we tell stories where the heroes shoot the bad guy again, and they kill the bad guy again, and they pour gold over the bad guy again, and they burn the bad guy in a fire again, and they drop him off a cliff. I mean, good God. Again and again and again. And what's happening? People are coping with fear. People want to tell stories with fear. The fear exists inside, all right? The fear is present within you, but you want to locate it in a story where the fear is the bad guy and you dominate the fear. You identify with the hero that dominates the fear. I'm telling you, it doesn't need to work like that. What if you actually loved the bad guy and dreamed of being so loving that when you confronted fear, you fucking dissolve it with your love? What if you start imagining that you create a field of energy that's and you bend hatred and resentment? That someone who's nasty and hateful and violent, you reach them. I'm not telling you to be reckless. I'm not telling you to walk into dangerous situations. I'm saying if the world ever puts you in such a place, may love shine through you so deeply. Because that's your practice. This is spiritual practice. You are practicing for your extremes in how you think and how you dream. Once a man was invited to live in a community house that I owned. Before I left on my travels, I owned a house that I turned into a community house. I invited lots of people to live in. And we invited a man to share, and he tried to bring a gun into the house. And we said no. And he got really mad, and he was scathing. He's like, "You're so naive, da-da-da-da-da-da." And I was like, no, I think you're naive. I think when you prepare for violence by imagining violence, you're generating violence. You create it. You just created it. It exists. Now you've created a little story, and that story is here. It's right here. Your story says the bad guy comes and I'm going to shoot him. That's your story. It's an energy. You've prepared. You have practiced for violence with violence. You want to know what really happens? For God's sake, it's right in front of our eyes. Look at his story. What really happens with violence? It keeps going on. And then it goes 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 on. And this guy kills this guy. 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 And they were all assholes. There weren't really good guys and bad guys nearly as starkly as we want to believe. We just remember the people who won because they were the only one there writing down the story that said, that person was really nasty. I was watching a clip on I forget his name. I don't know. Joe Rogan. He's a 1 minute YouTube video, and he's like, God, that guy's enthralled with violence, right? He loves talking about stare down contests. And he's talking about this guy, and he's like, you see this guy? He's part of an anti-terrorist militia. I'm like, of course he calls it an anti-terrorist militia. Like, he's not going to say I'm a gang member, right? Everybody says they're the good guy. Nobody says I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy. Violent worlds just perpetuate themselves. They keep going. I'm not telling you not to defend yourself. I'm not telling you not to respect people who defend you. I'm telling you not to dream it. Make it numb. Make it a bit of a failure. It's not a celebration when an intense, out of balance person gets killed. It's sad. We didn't reach them. Maybe it's necessary. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's important to always question. Can someone be reached? If you pray through how you imagine with love, you will prepare for love. There have been times in my life when the world has put me into dangerous situations, and when I've been in those situations, my love, I practiced it. It was with me. It was strong. It was really strong. I didn't want it. I didn't say, hey, like, let me test this love by going to the most violent people. No. I did what I did. I lived what I lived. I made the choices that felt true. And if violence showed up, I prayed. My love was already there. I didn't have to, all I had to do was tune into it. I practiced it. It was right here. And when I put my hand on my heart, be this. I say this because I think one of the most profound reasons people don't pray to be in heaven is because they're afraid. Check this. Be honest with yourself, because I know I can still feel this. I see a transcendent reality 1,000 years in the future here on Earth. Very peaceful. Far fewer people, much, transformed world. Beautiful. Beautiful. It's like songs in the air. And when I tune into this reality, I still feel like the horror of what happens if someone goes crazy and becomes a murderer. I can tune into a reality without rage and violence, and rage and violence feels terrifying on a level that I can't even, I don't even want to touch it. It's like it's so fragile. I don't want to break it. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's the opposite. It's so strong. It's so strong that it can pull you there. It can pull you into a reality, into a possibility, into a potential that's present that says, hey, just keep using your intention to pray for love. Your fear won't win. You don't have to be perfect. You need to be in touch with your darkness. You need to recognize the parts of you that hate. Maybe even imagine yourself being violent, but you don't know how to stop it. Be in touch with that. Just say no. Don't fuel it. Don't write a story on top of it. Don't paint with your pain. Don't take that pain and turn it into a hero story where you're like fucking Bruce Willis shooting another terrorist. Don't do it. Just don't do that. Pray with love. Feel love. Let me tell you, love doesn't say, go live in a cell with a murderer or treat you like shit. Love doesn't say you have to go try to redeem every horrible person on the planet. That's not what love says. It's not how love works. Love says, if I ask you to confront something terrifying and sick, will you be there? Will you help make this stronger? Until then, Go smile. Choose to be with people who live in a way that can be loving with you. Is that really radical? Like, think about it. Is that really radical? Unfortunately, it is. It is. How many people are making choices this way? When you look around yourself, look at, please, please, right now. I want you each to imagine yourself. This is a meditative practice that was taught to me by a Hopi elder, a woman who profoundly changed my life. And I'd like to lead you in this right now. It's perfect timing for it. You're in a river. This river is your life. It's moving slowly, but it's strong. It's steady. You're floating. You're swimming with ease. You're moving down this river. This is your life. This is the river of your life. When you look around yourself, who is with you? Who's with you? Who do you think with? Because who you think with is who you are with spiritually. And it is a more profound choice than your physical presence. It will transform your physical presence if you allow this to be the center. Who are you with spiritually? Is it love that bonds you? This isn't vague. And yet, are you really choosing this way? Can you trust that choosing this way is the best way? I've had several clients lately who have backgrounds in finance, and they seem a little like starry, like they don't know how to fathom when I say, what if it's really your job to be good with money in service to loving spirit? What if it's really your job to be in the world as it is, but to be a presence of love that is more transformational than you'd ever be if you hid, if you isolated yourself? Sometimes we're called in life to isolate ourselves. Sometimes we're called in life to say no to everything so we can listen to the still small voices in ourselves. But I assure you, it's a very critical and specific kind of transition. And it's not for everyone even. Do you have expectations that you place on yourself that are pushing you in the wrong direction? Do you have an idea of what being a good person is, or what being spiritual is, that are pushing you in the wrong direction? Because I assure you, everyone has a unique relationship to Gaia. We're coming out of millennia, thousands of years in which humanity separated itself. They said monks are spiritual over here, priests are spiritual over here, warriors are fighters over here, bankers are here, merchants are here. It cut people up like this, right? And that was normal. That was societal, and everything we live with is in direct relationship to that, to feudalism, basically. Every aspect of the mainstream cultures that I inherited are in direct relationship to these feudal patterns. And these days, businessmen are no more than people who are claiming lordships. They're trying to be lords. But it's all in relationship to each other, and I assure you, it's out of relationship with both heaven and earth. Isn't that crazy? How's that possible? You want to call anything crazy? Don't you dare call yourself crazy. Don't you dare denigrate what you're going through as you awaken by accepting the idea that you're the one that's sick. You're the one who's getting well in a world that's sick, in a cultural, it's like a megalith. It's always been sick. It's always been sick. It's always been sick. It's nothing more than a compost pile of stuff we don't want to be real. We don't want these patterns to be real. We do not want these patterns to grow again. Do we need heroes? Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes there really are more violent, hateful people, and they really do have guns and want to kill or rape. We do need to stop them. But we want to stop them with the least amount of pain and effort possible. We don't want to pray for glorious moments with orchestras in the background while they all fucking die. Don't pray that way. I'm serious. Stop watching that bullshit. It's poison to your mind. One of the most critical transitions I've ever been through happened when I was 20 years ago, almost exactly 20 years ago. I went to a movie with my uncle and aunt, and to my surprise, they called me to the van, and we smoked a lot of pot before we went into the movie. And I go into this movie theater, and it's packed, and I sat front and center, very high, and I started doing yoga on the floor. I'd just begun like a year before, and I loved yoga. I was obsessed with yoga. It kept me focused, centered wherever I went. This packed movie theater, I sit in front and center, and I'm doing yoga in front. So I sit down when the movie starts, and it's Spider-Man. Early on, I hear a voice in my head. I'd just begun hearing voices. It was a very new thing, and it was astounding to me. It was still like a peak. For those of you who weren't here at the beginning, like I talk about this in a way that's valuable. It was a peak. I was like, it was like I was on a mountain peak, like, oh my God, this is really happening to me. I'm hearing guidance. It was tangible, present. And the guidance said, watch what's about to happen. So it's early in the movie, if you haven't seen it, and he's a boy at school, and he's being bullied. Now, I'm prepared. Before the scene starts, I'm prepared by this voice that clearly knows the nature of the movie. And then the voice says, he doesn't have to do what he does at the end. He only has to do what he does first. Like, before it happens. So I watch, and the bully's like threatening him. Takes a swing, and he does a double backflip right in front of the guy. And all the other kids are like, whoa, oh my God. That's all he had to do. That's all he had to do. It's beautiful. He just danced around violence and used the energy of it in this extreme, extraordinary way. Utterly transformational. Stop the scene. Stop it in your mind. Root out in your mind how you're dreaming of winning. Dream this way. And next, he punched the guy in the face and he flew across the room. You didn't need to do that. You already looked like a fucking idiot. Didn't need to do that. In reality, that breaks him. He broke himself by trying to be violent and then demonstrating the incredible athleticism, transcendent ability of the hero. Be a hero like that. Be a hero who knows how to stare at violence and transform it in one way or another. And if violence is ever really needed to stop someone, pray that it be as quick and as painless as possible, as little as is necessary. Why is this so important? Because you need to trust that heaven is more powerful than what we live with. It's not weak. Our ideas of goodness and spirituality have not been accurate. You're not supposed to just get hit, take the punches, suffer. You're supposed to transform it. And you're supposed to win. So you're in a river. You are in a river. And now I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. You are in a river. It's a big river. You're floating with ease. Somehow there's no worry. You won't sink. You can move with grace. And you look around yourself and you say, who are you with? Who are you with in your life? Do you feel more drawn to conflict or collaboration? There is no shame in this. I remember a time when I looked at my inbox and I realized that I was quicker to open the messages from people who I was arguing with than people who loved me and wanted to do things with me. And I had an epiphany. I had a peak experience that said there's something wrong with this. And I started intentionally going to the messages from people who loved me first. Are you doing this? What you think is conflict holding your mind? Are you bouncing in the conflict, struggling to say the thing that will be like the hero, boom, capping the bad guy? It's all the same paradigm, whether you're using guns or just ideas. Can you shift your attention so you're reaching for love first? It's work. It's work. This is the work, and it's where it begins. This transition where you leave your identification with struggle, because so many people begin to awaken and feel like I'm going to be a champion. You misread the paradigm. You see reality through now I'm going to be a champion for awakening and I'm going to launch myself into the world and I'm going to fight. Now, look, there are times to fight, but don't make that the heart of who you are, because the heart of who you are is connected down into the earth. The heart of who you are draws up the strength of the spirit of this place and is far more powerful than anything in this nether world of cultural confusion that's based in historical feudalism. And when you draw that strength in every day, or 3 times a week, 20 minutes, spiritual practice, 3 times a week, 20 minutes, you practice drawing strength into yourself and centering it in your heart, and you're centering love. Centering love. And when you center this love, you're practicing for how you respond. And you enter a space where you are generating love for others. You're drawing them into your presence. Don't argue with them. Don't convert them. You don't need to. Make them work a little more. Have an attitude about your practice. Protect it a little. Don't tell people to be this or that or the other. Don't tell people to copy you. Let them feel it. They can tell. They can tell there's more light around you. They know. They know. They don't know how to handle it yet. Give them space. Make them ask again. Don't get excited. Don't tell them your stories yet. Make them work for it. Draw them towards the present and have an attitude about how valuable it is. If they don't know how to generate this love in their lives yet, are they going to work? Are they going to work for it? I assure you, that's how I've been building this channel. I am so pleased with the range of people who show up here. I wish you could have a console that shows you the new comments that show up on YouTube for my channel, because I have a console as the channel studio that shows me the new comments every day. Yesterday, it took me over an hour to respond to the just beautiful comments from people who are deeply present, doing your work. I wanted people like you who do your work, who own your challenges, your failures, who appreciate me without kissing my ass. Somebody asked me yesterday, a viewer who I really care about, asked me to appraise a video they found. It was a video of some guy explaining secret societies and how they really run the earth. And I was listening and I was watching. This guy was interviewing with someone else. And the whole interview started with this interviewer kissing his ass. And it's like, there was darkness and then you showed up and now there's light. And it's like, no. There's light in you. You want help to make it stronger. That's why I'm here. Don't you dare tell me that it's all because of me. I'm deeply honored every time that I play a critical role in your life. And I'll be present to receive it. But please stay with you, because you wouldn't be able to talk with me if you hadn't done as much work as you do. You wouldn't be able to sit here and listen to this if you hadn't done as much work as you do. There's a beautiful dynamic that I was introduced to early. I had a dream in which I was being present. I was sharing my spiritual gifts, and some people were running away. And I was horrified. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? And then some people were walking solidly towards. The message was quite clear. Love drives away. those who don't belong with it because they can't face the feelings that it wakes up in them. True love wakes up the truth. True love reaches past hatred and violence and touches the wounded child in another person that once upon a time was more innocent, was a kinder and truer to their connection to spirit. A kinder and truer spirit who remembered their connection to their soul. That's in everyone. There is no one out there who doesn't have that. And when you live real love, you give others the chance to connect to that or to run away. They might leave. You might push people away, but you're not choosing. They are. You're in a river. You look around you. Don't tell anyone to leave. Turn up your light. Tap into your love. Some of them might need to take some space. They might need to go off and digest because you wake them up. It's scary. You need to own this. I know the people I'm talking to now. You're in this position. You couldn't feel this rhythm. You would have gone off because, you have to do something else right now and intend to watch it later. You would leave if you weren't ready to hear this. You need to own it. You need to own your spiritual center well enough to start gauging how you impact others. Recognize that the reason they need to take space from you is their own. You're touching them. True love reaches in and sees the pain beneath the violence. True love reaches in and sees the repression, sees the trauma that people they can't remember it. It hurts too much. They can't be near true love without waking that up. And so they need the right to come closer and to walk away. And it's so fucking sad. It's so sad when they don't come back. It is. And yet, more people show up. I promise you. People who want to love with you. And then you're in your river and you look around you and you're surrounded by others who want this to be real. You need to want that for yourself. And you need to be the kind of person who can embrace and trust and respect the impact you have. It's not about your ego. It's not about you in relation to society. It's just trusting the flow straight through the earth, down from the sky, heaven up, earth down, both good, uniting in you, resonating out. Be it. Some people will think you're a pariah. Some people will think you're a genius. Some people will think you're annoying. Some people will think you're the coolest person they've ever met. Some people will think you're their brother, their lover. Let it wash over you. It just keeps changing. Don't hold it. It won't be consistent. Consistency is your connection to the earth. The love of the earth that reminds you that you're of the universe. People talk about the universe, right? They talk about like the universe wants this for me. The universe, just be here. The earth is part of the universe. I assure you, she knows much more about how the universe works. She remembers much more about what the universe is. Don't be the universe. Don't. Just be here. Let her navigate that. Let her mediate it. Let her mediate it. She wants to. It's her river. You're in a river. It's hers. This is a vein. This is a vein of the earth. It's bringing you back to the heart. Swim. I want to say hi again. Bless you, Emily. Dawn. I want to see who. Hey, Dawn, thank you so much for the donation. Angie, thank you. It feels great. I'm going to take my family out to dinner when I have enough. They've been so patient with me. My mother-in-law, my wife's mother, my parents, my two parents, my sister, my wife, my son, my daughter. They're so patient with me. This is my calling, my dream. I'm like incapable of doing anything else. But I've been very resistant to turning it into mainstream for all the reasons I tell you. I've been like obsessed with staying true to the spiritual connection, and it's been a challenge for me to recognize that I'm invited to participate. I'm invited to be here to be a part of this. And doing my YouTube channel is the biggest step I've taken in embracing being a part, sharing, letting this be my service, letting this be my work. And I just monetized. And now that I'm monetized, I can receive donations. And I'm going to use the donations to take everybody out for dinner um, for the first amount. Thank you. It does indeed, Claudia. Business, you hark back to my whole first class. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for returning. I'm really excited to be doing these classes again. I am going to be on vacation a couple times over the course of the next month or so, but every week I'm here, I'm doing it. I'll warn folks in my community posts if I'm not doing a class, but you can just presume Tuesday mornings, 10 a.m., a class is happening. And about, well, an hour in, but I've gone longer, I will shift from the channeling, the service, the lecture, the class into questions and readings. And that's about where I'm at now. I will tell you, definitely appreciate donations during this time all the more. When I'm giving readings for people. And if you can't afford it, you know, perhaps somebody who can will make a donation too. I'm not going to measure it. I'm not going to tell you to give me money to do a reading, but I will say I do appreciate it. The pattern works like these. I can answer a question you ask, or I can give you a reading of what I see. I have a limited amount of space and time, so I'm tuning in and I'm asking the question, what do they most need to know? What can I share in this moment that will be most influential in your life? It's obviously influenced by the course of the day. That's magnetized you too. So it all fits together. It ends up being common that people have similar challenges. And there's a beauty in that I think I invite you to really trust and respect. It means we're here together in the river. We're sharing this space. And our ability to vibe with each other, it transcends distance. This is all over the world. So if you would like a reading or have a question, please ask. And if I could ask you to avoid making other comments so I won't miss people, because the more people show up, it's easier for me to miss folks when they ask. Thank you, Emily. Flower lioness, that is a good prayer. Thank you for being here all the way through that. So my family's going great. My son, Benji, is 5.5 almost, as he points out. Not quite yet, Daddy. One more week. He's incredible. He's really creative and loud and and all over the place. And I love it. It's really inspiring. He's definitely owning his own path. And I appreciate that too, because I'm kind of intense and I don't want to drown him out. He makes sure that I don't. My daughter, Anna, is 1 year and almost 3 months, 2.5 months. And she's walking, she's talking, she's screaming, she's grabbing, she's climbing. It's incredible. And she's transforming into it. She's more aware. So she smiles and she laughs and she sees us in a way that she's like, where are you? How are you? Um, she's becoming much more conscious and present. And it's just an unbelievable joy to be with her as much as I am. It's a great, great life. Business. Reading. All right. What a pleasant thing to be able to share. You're calming yourself too much. You actually you've activated so intensely in the past that you got wild. You got wild in a way that was unpleasant, and I'm inviting you to be wild in a way that's conscious. You can't aim for lower. You need to normalize the intensities you've accessed, and you're calming it down too quick recently. For the past, months, even year, I invite you to, you're riding the brake, and you need to let yourself move more, let yourself feel more, and trust that you have many more tools to bring this into balance than you used to. You're struggling too much about big decisions, and you're not letting things unfold. There's a reason that you're not getting definitive answers. You need to be present in what's in front of you so you can learn to make your choices more clearly. So you're being presented with different things, and you're begging for it all to be resolved before it's time to resolve it. You know these. So slow down your desire for answers and be present with what the world's showing you. And make your decisions. Watch yourself. Recognize why you feel aversion and drawn, and judge it less. Your lungs, you can really work with your lungs to help yourself sort through this. When you recognize tension in your lungs and you even do the yoga, do the breathing, and clarify, bring balance here and see what it feels like to bring balance. When you practice spiritually, you bring balance to an area and you feel what it feels like to bring balance, and then see what your mind does. What do you want then? Angie. Huh. Too strong a concern about the people around you. You're moving too quickly to try to share what you're learning or try to want people to adjust to you, to like change with you. You need to take the pressure off. The pressure is counterproductive. Like you're putting pressure on people around you to change in a way that they're like rebelling against. And I'd encourage you to honestly feel a little sympathy for them. Like no one was pushing you to change. You were pushing, you were drawn, you were inspired internally. So they need a little more space. And don't feel tragic about it. It's perfectly normal for people to change at a different pace. You're a pioneer within your family. It's a gift. You get the gift of feeling things early, but then it's a responsibility, because how can you help others change? I assure you, the greatest aspect that you bring is to do it. You're resonating higher, literally higher frequencies. Those frequencies are now present in your family, in your core relationships. They're exposed to them. Let them have a little space to make changes in relation to these new frequencies. You don't even, it's not about the words. Like back off wanting to assert words and like wait for crucial moments. It's what I was saying earlier, like have more of an attitude, like make people work for it. You're wanting them, you're needing them to change. Make them want it. You be it. Be an advertisement for heaven, Angie. be 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 so pleased with it that you navigate through the ups and downs and let people have their turmoil. Don't try to fix it. Be it. When you notice yourself judging or meddling, bring yourself back. Maybe you need to go deeper. Maybe you need an hour-long yoga practice now. Because I assure you, there's a transition from 3 20-minute practices that add 1 hour once a week. Once you've done that, come back and tell me. Once you're doing that 3 weeks in a row, 1 hour practice and 3 20 minutes, tell me. If you're already doing it, tell me now. Oh, bless you, Angie. I love helping people on this one because I made this mistake so hardcore. I pushed so many people too hard, too fast because I was scared. I wanted to help them. I was lonely. I wanted to relieve them of their pain. It was all a turmoil. I didn't give them enough space. So I learned this lesson the hard way, and now I'm really good at it. I believe, and the people around me, it works so much better. Bless you, Angie. You're deep. You're deep. Here's the thing, and I'm until someone else asks for a reading or has a question, I want to. I'll just move with this theme. One of the most beautiful aspects of going through sort of an integration of your awakening is you start to get in touch with people's higher selves. So I assure you, and there's a whole class on telepathy that talks about this from a year ago, but the easiest way to be telepathic is with people's higher selves. Don't stress out trying to be telepathic in conscious moment to moment. Like, it's not even as advantageous as being able to talk to someone's higher self. When you talk to someone's higher self, you get deep truths. What you will find is that the higher selves of the people who love you are participating in bringing you into where you are. They are activating you. So when you turn around too quickly and try to press their human self, the person who you see every day, when you press them too much, you're missing this connection. They want to grow too, but you're not stable yet. You need to get yourself strong and stable in your new awakened space. And once you're stronger, then you can give them a hand. But if it's not working, deepen yourself. And that depth will put you in connection with their higher selves. And it's really, really a beautiful and affirming. Once you get in connection with people's higher selves, you have a much more intrinsic awareness of what is and isn't possible day to day. And you take the pressure off. It's such a beautiful gift. You take the pressure off, and then you are there when they really need you. And that feels great. Thank you, Brisneys. Thank you so much. I will. I will. It means a lot. It's been years. They've been putting up with me, like, making very little. And it feels good to change it. This is a powerful space, Flower Lioness, and I'm glad you're here. Oh, goodness, Angie. Thank you so much. It means a lot. And please don't hesitate to ask for a reading if you're not in a position to donate to. When some do, I'm happy and grateful. It's like a service. It's more like a service to me than a business. But I do, when it flows, when the donations come, I'm grateful. Any other readings? Until you do, I've realized that I didn't get to something I want to get to, and I might have to put it off till next week. Aha. Emily. So I love that. Oh, what Emily first. Wow, these are great comments. Yes. So my basic constant trust is a therapy known as EMDR. EMDR is trauma therapy that was designed for Vietnam War veterans. It's amazing. It's very spiritual. It's one of the coolest mainstreamed therapies that you will find. It's not explicitly extreme, but it's so extreme. It teaches you to weave yourself back together and to feel energy. Now, it's not using spiritual language, although many practitioners are very spiritual, but it's also covered by insurance in many, many places. So I know this isn't all of you. I know international cities might not have it, although many European ones do. But it's just base level. I went through extensive EMDR, 3 significant phases of my life, so deeply helpful. EMDR is a great way to go after trauma once you've identified it. My work, Wildflowerfire, and the meditations are a great way to find it. So when you find your shadows, you don't always know what to do with it. And you can potentially do it on your own. The book is my best effort to give you the tools to do it. But I just want you to have the possibility in your mind and heart that you would reach out to an EMDR therapist, because sometimes when you're crying, when you're transforming and bringing out these intense energies, it can really be helpful to have a physical person there. I am available to do sessions with people. I do intense trauma work. It's from a distance. And if you, I want to put it more positively, but if you don't have a better option, I'm here. I'm just not selling it because there is a certain real deep gift to having someone present. If you know you have a trauma, EMDR is just ideal because you can go after it. Now, I say that as a bit of a disclaimer because now I'm going to tell you how to do it without. Trauma exists. It has a place. It can be located. It's energy, wound, wound, same spelling. The little video of the trauma is like a loop. Like, the 1 minute YouTube shorts, it just loops. It just loops in you. But you hate hearing it, so you've learned to block it. So you don't just have repressed trauma, you have the mechanism of repression in you. And that generates tension and numbness and eventually sickness. So you could trace physical ailments and tensions and look underneath them, and you'll often find trauma. When you do yoga and you do meditation, and then you activate the chakras involved, and you learn to meditate into the area that's vulnerable, you start to bring its presence into consciousness. When it's here and you start to feel it, it's like a window. This is the inverse of the work I do. This is how, in many ways, I began to perfect the work I do on myself. You tune into an energy and it starts to open, it starts to reveal itself, it starts to open feelings and expose you to memory. But that can take time. And the best way to get there is to commit to a spiritual practice. You commit to the practice, you're doing the practice, and then you're learning over time to watch for anomalies. The anomalies expose blind spots uncover repression, repression unveils trauma. When you feel the trauma, you feel it. It stitches it back into you, and there's an end to this process. It's not indefinite. When you get yourself into the depths of the consciousness that you were in when you were a child and you were traumatized, and you allow yourself to feel the arc of those feelings, and you draw yourself into the realization that you're now an adult and you're here and you have this incredible potential to be present with your own love and the trauma, and teach that part of yourself to realize that you're here now. You're here now. You're not trapped in this memory. Works. So I only ask, engage this as much as you want to. Ask me questions, in videos, or send me a message. The Volley community is really wonderful because I can see your face, and that does give me an added benefit and an added depth. If you want to, I can certainly do individual sessions. I do series of sessions. I've worked with people for 2 years, almost weekly. And in some cases, it's been awesome. And in another case, I recently said, look, I don't think we're able to get at something. Can you consider working with an EMDR therapist? And they're doing that because I think they need someone who's there one-on-one. So that's an overview. And from there are lots of other questions, but I think, it needs its own. I have several old classes from a year ago on trauma that you might want to visit and comment there, and we can talk more. Woo-woo, Juju. Good morning. I love this. I saw this comment earlier, and I was almost rushing to get to it. When your nose is wiggling, it is so exciting because, first of all, this is an absent chakra. Many people aren't using it, but I really encourage you to invest in the trust. This is just it's like adding the black keys. Okay. So you get to go through this extraordinary joy of adding this chakra to your awareness, and what it does, magnificent. This is like magical sensation. I encourage you to think it's like Rudolph, all right? Your nose tip guides you through the ways that you become aware through your senses. All of them, your taste, your sight, your smell. Not as much touch, actually, but these senses here that it's close to, it's navigating them in a sacred way. So what this means is, like, an example that I've used often is I can be in public spaces and I see very poorly. And yet sometimes I see piercingly clearly all the way across the room. This is spiritual guidance. When sensation and energy comes together in a way that it makes something brighter, it makes something crystal clear. Your attention is just drawn in a certain direction and you catch someone's eye. These are spiritual attunement, and your nose tip navigates it. So the more you activate your nose on purpose, the more you can tune into, like, what do you need? What do you need? And you go through your day and you'll bump into someone and have a great conversation. You'll navigate exactly to the book you need to pick up. You'll navigate exactly to something you need to be eating that you're not, because it contains a certain vitamin that you're lacking. So this is, it takes you beyond conscious awareness into this space it's really exciting, and it's wiggling because it wants that. It's trying to get your attention, so you'll follow it, and it's just fun. It's just fun, woo-woo juju. And I encourage you to follow that juju because it's exciting. And it leads you into health really quick. I call it spiritual nutrition. It shows you the spiritual nutrition you need. Oh, Tam, please email me, Kaya, Kaiya, at wildflowerfire.com. There may be a couple of hurdles to getting Bali to work, and I'm very responsive on email. I'm sorry it hasn't worked, and we'll make it work. So please write to me this week. Jean. So that is, bless your living soul. That is the question, right? The quick answer is deep rest. When I feel stuck, stop resisting it. Be like, what? Almost invariably, you're going to find a tension within yourself, and you need to learn to identify with different aspects of yourself that are struggling. Chances are you're trying to identify with one part, and you're not listening to another. Now, typically, this means that there's been a polarization within someone's personality that makes the resistance the bad guy. So someone's decided that it's healthy if you work out 6 days a week at the gym, and you're going to do this routine and these muscles, and you're going to do it. And it used to work, and you used to feel great when you did that. Why doesn't it work now? Well, you need to learn to make this transition to a deeper depth of yourself, which says all resistance needs its voice heard. Doesn't mean you're going to follow it, but it needs to be heard. Because the healthy relationship within the self ends up being brake and gas. Brake and gas. When you're not very powerful, you don't even conceive that you need a brake because you never go fast enough to think that you do. All you do is stop pressing the spiritual accelerator, so to speak, and you'll stop moving because you don't have much momentum. Think of just like a child's tricycle or something on the grass. You're only going to move while you're pushing. When you stop pushing, you stop. When you awaken spiritually, you start to have much more influence. As soon as you try to go in this direction, you have some momentum. So the resistance that you feel is actually trying to learn into a synchronization where it becomes a break. And you want that break because now you're going to learn how powerful you are. And you can't be this powerful unless you know how to slow down. In deep rest times, start with a presumption you need to rest. Be still. It's time to recalibrate your goals and intentions. And that's more important than taking action, because if you take incorrect action, if you take action that's out of harmony with your heart, you're going to create more problems. Presume that you might do some of the wrong things during such a time. And now you're respecting whatever's holding you down and you're starting to own it. This isn't an external force sabotaging you. This isn't a prison that's controlling you. This is something that's trying to draw your attention into a broader awareness. Find that health. And now you're going to learn to identify with both these aspects of yourself, and your intentions will change. And it might take months, even a year. Like, patience is huge. I'm a very patient person, and it can be deceptive. I'm 48. I spent 10 years practically ignoring everybody. Like, I was gone. I didn't participate. And I knew when it was time to change that. The rhythms of the world are slower, but they're rich. you'll learn to love every piece of fruit. And that can be more important than whatever achievements you might be pushing for. So I could talk about that for an hour, but I hope that's a good inspiration. And please come back with more. Bless you, John Priya. My sessions, you could check out the website. They're $120, and there's a session overview page. Bless you, Emily Howard. And I am correct, right, Emily, that you're the one that made the comments about channeling in a Dave Matthews Band concert with One Sweet World. Like, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. I just saw that before this. And Dave Matthews was what my favorite. I saw them at least 5 times. I forget. It was an awesome influence in my youth. And you know something else that I'll talk about in a minute. Angie, I love it. Thank you so much, Emily. That was really inspiring. So I wanted to say, one of the biggest I've been anger's been coming up for me lately, and I always watch that. I don't think anger's bad. I tell people, but it's I'm doing what I do with Jean. Like when intense feelings, when contrasts happen within myself, I do my best to respect the core. It doesn't mean that it's okay to scream or yell, but it does mean that there's a voice in me that's not being heard, and that frustration needs to be woven in. And what I'm finding is I want more community in my life than I have. We have a lot of really great friends, but we don't have the depth of time together that we want, and it's really been hard. Um, and I don't mean to sound obnoxious. We have a lot of great friends who love us. It's just, people have a ton of commitments, and we have more freedom to our schedule than many people. And as a result, we have this space that there's a need. And I've been very frustrated about that. And then I realized, like, beneath that is music. So I'm a musician and I love music. And there were years in which I thought it might be my primary gift. And I was never at peace with how music works. Like I don't function well, like entertaining a group of people who are like talking to each other. Like, no disrespect, it just doesn't work for me. It's like music has been a message for me. And that started through the mechanism that taught me to channel. And, I was listening to Dave Matthews at the time, and Dave Matthews freestyles more than most mainstream musicians. And I started freestyling. I had written songs, like 10, 12 songs in college, and I liked them and I would sing them. And I started being unable to say the same words. And so I would sing and new things would come through. And the things that would come through were different. And initially, this is like automatic writing taken up a notch. Because if you could allow yourself to flow in this way, feelings that were repressed are the first thing that comes up. So I became obsessed with performing like this. And I was performing in front of like 80 people at this like shared gatherings where it was a rotation of performers. And at one night, I ended up on my knees crying. I freestyled into a space where I accessed emotions that were stuck. And it was brutal. It was awful as a performance piece, but I unearthed these feelings. Over the course of years of doing this, I healed. I got in touch with, it's not the only way, but it was a critical way that I got in touch with the broader range of myself because I gave the space. It was intense channeling of deep emotion, but it was controlled too. There was love in it. So I could access these feelings that were very angry about things and move them into a flow. Beneath that was channeling angels. When I cleansed myself enough, when I did my shadow work enough, I started to intentionally be able to say, all right, sing through me. And it's exquisite. Like, it's so beautiful. I have, to me, and like, I haven't been able to bridge the gap and share it in a way that works. And that's a sadness to me. It's a sense of loss to me. I have a channel, Daniel-Fuson, in which I have some music. I love it. I would love to invite you to listen. I'm not trying to sell it. Maybe I should. But at this moment, I just love it. It meant so much to me. And somehow I need music to be reactivated in my life. So Emily made a comment on the interview on the Kevin Moore show, the interview with me. She made a comment that wouldn't it be cool if I mean, what could move you to say this? Just make me smile. Like, wouldn't it be cool if I could come up while they're singing "One Sweet World" and do a channel from Gaia? And I'm like, oh my goodness, what a vision! Like that's magnificent. Very few things would make me as happy as being able to do that. So thank you so much, Emily. Oh, he's smiling at me. And Jesus, Emily. He's saying he taught me. I didn't fully know that. So I have something to do. All right. He said, I have an inaccurate understanding of what the power of this music can do. I've been afraid of a space that I reached freestyling where the music felt like it was like a force of pure destruction. I've been afraid of that. But it's actually my fear has been channeled through an insecurity, like because I wasn't part of the world enough and because I was frustrated at the ways in which I was not successfully connecting. I was misinterpreting this power. It was kind of like I was afraid of it, but I also liked the sense that I was so powerful. And it was a misunderstanding. And that's how I got stuck. He just made me tell you that. Now I can't hide it. Now I can't avoid it. It's funny. He does this to me. It's enough, he says. So I'm gonna have to process that, but I really appreciate the gift of it. It's remarkable, and I'm excited that I was drawn to your comment, Emily. Thank you for being here. Really. Tim, I was disappointed to someone who's taking my course commented that she thought the recent music, the green link, it's an hour long chakra meditation music, yoga and meditation music. She commented that it was a masterpiece. And did I record it in 432? And I was like, oh, I didn't. It's not my music. This is music I found. I found a stock music site with really wonderful musicians, and you can search by key. So I searched through by key, and I created this circle of fists meditation. So E for the heart, B for the crown, F sharp for the throat, C sharp for the sacral chakra, D sharp for the nose tip, or G sharp for the nose tip, D sharp for the solar plexus, A sharp for the diamond eye, F for the lungs, C for the root, G for the chin, D for the navel, A for the third eye, E for the heart. For the life of me, I don't know why this is not a thing. Because you don't have to know about chakras to know how powerful this is. When you put music in the circle of fifths, every transition is harmonic, every single one. But we're moving through all of the energies. We're moving through all of the keys. So that music is just musically, it's really powerful to do. And then I love the music. I found great tracks, and they're very meditative in this circle of fifths cycle. So each of those tracks goes in that cycle, and it ends up being, I'm doing all my yoga to these lately. Like, it's amazing how influential it is. And the cleansing nature of it is profound. And there are lots of other reasons it works, but I'm so glad you're using it. And I'm only going to keep exploring it. It's really effective. Dawn, yes. And one of the biggest things about transforming is there's points at which people get stuck when you're transforming, right? And this is akin to what Jean was raising earlier. And when you know you're stuck, because underneath that, there's a conflict within yourself, it's really important to stop and to take a look at what that conflict is, because much action might make things worse. There's really times when, you might think it's the right thing to get up and do, but what if you're going in the wrong direction? Then you just have to turn around later. Now, once you clarify your contradictions, you still You pushing isn't always good. More is not more. You've heard the thing like the student came to the master and said, "Master, master, how long will it take for me to reach enlightenment?" And the master said, 10 years. And he says, "I will get up 1 hour earlier and stay up 2 hours later. I will work much harder than all your other students. I will give everything. I will stop doing anything fun. How long will it take me?" 20 years. Like, you know, don't always push. There's a time to push. There's a time to push. You'll know when it is. A couple months ago, it was time for me to push. I pushed. I made like 20 live feeds within the course of 2 weeks. I deleted half of them, but the others are really quite good, in my opinion. I had truths wanting to come through me that I had blocked. And because I blocked them, I was stuck. So I needed to push to move through it. There's a time to push, but there's also a time to ride. My instinct with you, Dawn, is ride. You got the right forces going, make the changes in sync as they reveal themselves to you. I had the total intention to share on some other themes this week, and I think I'm going to intend to do them next week. That the combination of synchronicity and symbolic sight, and how to see and embrace these things in your life and how to make them more real. I just got carried into the Hopi meditation and a different element of focus, and I love that. It's really beautiful. I think that was perfect for this week, and it will set us up to address those themes more effectively next week. Oh, bless you, Juju. That is an honor. That is funny and beautiful, and maybe my freestyling isn't the best thing to fall asleep to. Some of it's peaceful, but I also unlock intensity. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Oh, absolutely, Brisness. And I know it's deep in your calling. Wait, but still, Tam? Ah, but still. I don't know what that means. Please elaborate. Absolutely. And sometimes it's time to allow. Like I have this video I made. I just made it so I could make it, and then I've totally moved on to other themes. But I think it's called One Amazing Spiritual Tool. It's from last summer. It's like an hour, and it's all about. I got very frustrated because I'm sick of watching people share something as if it's a spiritual truth, and it's like they share it in a way that everybody just goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," like no fear. Like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, fear is sometimes very useful. Now, what they're saying is sometimes people get so afraid they don't move. So when you say no fear, you can move through your fear. Yeah, but sometimes you need to be afraid because you're acting like an idiot and you're being reckless. Like, making polarized statements as if they're universal truths is like a spiritual disease. It happens constantly, right? And I encourage you to look at this video, One Amazing Spiritual Truth. Now I get to see how many of you actually do it. Stats are fun. And if you look at this video, it's all about it's my best attempt to help you apply this truth, that we live within polarizations in the mind. And this is all about how to change your paradigm. Be careful identifying one polarity as good and another as bad. Now, you might be steeped in one polarity in a way that it's really wrong for you. Like you're too grounded, so you need to learn to be more free. But I assure you, you could be too free. There's an amazing spiritual story I read early in my path it was a book called Genius and Madness. And it talks about a young man who went through an awakening, and he spent all his money on a truck full of crystals. And then he gave all the crystals away. And he was just like, he was experiencing what it was like to move from wealth and then leave his commitments and let go. So that momentum was very powerful as he's shifting from being too wealthy and too materialistic to being really light. The transformation is really powerful. But then he was too fucking light. Then he was too ungrounded. Then he lost his sense of self. And he ended up at an institution and he wasn't even there. And they had this incredible connection where they talked about how the body of, like years later, he's in an institution and his body spoke Jerebiah has entered the building. I don't remember his name. His body had lost connection to part of his spirit. People call this a soul retrieval. I think it would be better to call it a spirit retrieval. But anyway, we could lose parts of our spirit externally to extreme circumstances, and then we're too light. They just leave. They're literally, a part of yourself is doing something else. You have to call it back. Everything can be overdone. Every polarized direction, you could be too fast, you could be too slow, you could be too aggressive, you could be too passive. You could make too many choices, you could not make enough choices. Be careful. Like, look inside yourself. Think of this as an opportunity. Scan yourself. In what ways have you over-identified with polarization? Have you said one thing is good, one thing is bad? Because almost invariably, when you find that you're addicted to one side of a polarity, you will be able to recognize how to get into balance. And that balance will often induce a tremendous shift in your awareness and your ability to experience life, and in your ability to see clearly to take your next actions. I don't remember how I got on that tangent. Love it. Oh, Gene, thank you for, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times, Gene, I ask people to help me pronounce their names correctly, because I've got some really amazing, interesting names, and I really appreciate your clear guidance. Gene, thank you for being here. Oh, wow. I love it. Billy Carson. I will look him up. I'm developing a list. I've gotten a lot of answers. Thank you so much, y'all, for, you've answered a lot about, like, what do you watch, what inspires you, and I put it in a list, and I'm gonna, at pace, look into it, because I literally don't know. Like, um, I haven't known a lot of other sources, and it's really cool to find out who you respect and who might be interested in collaborating. Oh, bless your heart. Optimistic moon, you know, there's no greater joy. And the combination of being able to help people, as myself, being myself, true and bright, and allowing this to be a vessel for bringing through information and guidance that's great for you. I'm finding, I can't say enough, like, I'm finding I'm attracting the right kind of people. I like you guys. And there's this beautiful balance of inspired and strong within, and brave and humble, in a way that, like, you appreciate me, you respect me, but you don't seem to be disempowered by it. I love how this works. And I do suggest that this is intense stuff. I purposefully went as deep as I could into being me, and being me in this world, to what's the greatest gift I could give. I wanted the challenge. I wanted the challenge, and I've made extreme choices in a way that can be deceptive. I was just telling someone last week, like, partly I try to be calm in the face of extremes, and I got so good at it that you might not notice, and then it might be too activating. So by all means, take space. Let it sink in. I, I often don't put end screens. I don't mean to be obnoxious, but often I think it would be best if you watched a video and then went outside. Don't necessarily jump onto another video. Let it sink in. Claudia. Oh, absolutely. Yes, Tam, I'm on the way. So thank you for making me share my intentions. I'm currently developing this course, and it's going great. The people who are taking it are really inspiring, and they're giving me good feedback. So they're sort of pioneers, and they're with me from the start, but you can start this whenever you want to. So we're on week 7. All you have to do is start. At the moment, it's up to you. Eventually I'll put it into a program where it, like, drips it to you, gives it to you weekly. But right now you can start, do week 1, wait until the next week to do week 2. And you go through this, and it's the foundation, it's the introduction. I've written the 4 courses. So I have 4 courses. When you put them all together, it'll teach you how to be a practitioner. The first two courses essentially teach you how to do it for yourself, but they're also introducing all the themes in a way that it's in you, and I can like test you on it, and like not test you like in a mean way, but like find out if you're learning the information, teach you how to apply it, help you recognize whether it's internalized. The third and fourth course are how to apply it onto others. So it absolutely deepens your ability to put it on yourself, but it puts you in a position where you can do it for others. And actually, after the first course, you're going to be in a position to do a very basic routine on someone else. So it's in the works, and I'm going to just keep going. It'll take more than a year. I'm going to be making videos almost every week. They're between half an hour and an hour long, and they're the lesson for the week. But all the material I have written down, I've done them in person. So it's underway, and at the end of it, people will be able to do this. I think probably the third and fourth course, I won't do the drip version. Like I'll get people to sign up because I think it'll be more important to talk and be present in groups. But it exists. You can start the first course anytime you want to. It's already begun. Dawn, you already gave me a donation, you wonderful woman. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Oh my goodness. uh, I wonder whether I want any responsibility for that dream. Watching a recent video with you, I found a small human-like creature, like the size of a Barbie doll. It had a huge nose, a constantly screaming mouth, no eyes or ears. So I would encourage you, my immediate presumption, Flower Lioness, let me know, can I treat that as, like, can I do a reading with that? Because I don't want to look into it casually. That's intense. And I have another, well, theoretically 3 minutes, whatever. I'll finish with whoever asks now. But if it's okay with you, Flower Lioness, I'd like to look deeper into that dream because I think it's important. So, Jean, I will answer that for sure before we leave. Flower Lioness. So there's a wound there, and that's a part of you. It's trying to tell you something that you've lost, that you've blocked. It's such a constant part of you that you're treating it almost like fuel for your life. Like you're just used to this intense little presence screaming. It doesn't see, it doesn't take in new information. It's just repeating its pain. This is the work. This is how you could use the meditations to try to get in touch with it. You're zeroing in, you're hunting, you're stalking your own pain. But now you know it's there, and now you know how to go after it. And this is why I introduced the, like, please be open to doing a session with me or an EMDR therapist who can be close to you. There's joy under that, though. You could do these. There's joy under that. It's by no means all bad. It's tried to tell you things. It's not just pain. There's some real transcendence under there. And that's a common thing. A traumatized part of ourselves often ends up um, disassociating and then discovering amazing truths. So they come together, and ultimately the love in that exploration is stronger. It's there. I can feel it. It's there, but you got to listen to this part. You got to listen to this little voice, and it's kind of freaky at first to acknowledge, to embrace this as part of you. That's why it's dangerous to wake these things up a little and then get stuck and like avoid it, because then it's sort of haunting. This is not a bad, there's anger in it, but this is not a bad spirit or something. It needs a hug, needs to be heard, needs to share, and this will expand you. You'll be so much stronger and freer. That's awesome. That's exactly right. Oh my God, beautiful. So yellow, I always go straight to the chakras. That's your navel, that's your identity, that's your power. You've lost part of your power to a trauma. The best way to balance, this won't make sense unless you study it a couple times for some, but your navel is balanced by the third eye. This is the key ring cycle. Then you use the colors. The yellow is balanced by purple. The purple balances yellow, brings it into coherence. Your vision of yourself in reality helps you balance your power. You need to let your vision of yourself change to include this part of you. This part of you is hurt, but is also trying to give you access to a deeper power that shows you a broader vision of the world. Your instincts are absolutely right on. You just need to do that for months. You need to be open to doing it repeatedly for months. It's part of your practice. It's a huge priority. Like until you do this, a lot of other forces won't make sense in your life. You can do this. Hey, you want to live like lions live. You want to be on top of it. You want to be in control. Your mountain, your climbing mountain. Your mountain is all you know. Wild Wildflower, darn it, I don't remember the chorus. This is my friend wrote this beautiful song about wildflowers and lions. Look, your fierceness and your dream and your power and your passion are going to come together. But do this work. Don't try to make any other big initiatives for a little bit. I'm thinking all the way into winter because this stuff is powerful and you need it. You need to bring this into coherence before other things are going to work well. Bless you, flower lioness. All right, Gene. Here's the simple thing. We all have the power to turn up the love. The reason we don't do it is because it wakes up the pain. You have to believe that. I don't understand why this isn't a mantra in healing circles. It seems obvious. It's been experienced by so many. Repeat this to yourself. The reason you're resisting turning up the love and being happier is because the happiness brings up pain. Just the other day, we got really happy in our family. We had a beautiful morning, and then I ended up yelling about something. The key is to watch that happen and to not think of it as tragic. It sucks. It's like you bring this beautiful happiness to life and then you take a shit in the middle of it. It's kind of what I felt like I did. But then I took some space and I analyzed what was wrong, and I felt a part of me that's lacking. Like I want more reasonable daily connection in my life, and a lot of that is music. I haven't been playing music for a little while, and that's really sad. A lot of that is COVID. We turned off gatherings for a while, and we haven't really figured out how to bring them back to life. So feeling the pain is normal when you turn up the joy. But often people will treat those as equals and will even unconsciously turn down your passion and power and love because the pain comes up. So treat it as normal. Expect that when you intend to bring yourself more to life and bring joy more into constant presence in your days, it's going to bring up shit. Don't let the shit, don't let the pain, don't let the wound, don't let the repression be stronger than your capacity to love. Draw your commitment back into that love. And that's why we go back to the practice. The practice is doing this physically and spiritually, so you don't have to think about it all the time. When you commit to keeping a practice going, you keep returning to it. So even in the face of the pain, you have a safe place to be that's bringing love back in. And you teach yourself to trust that even though really and truly the love brought that pain up. So it can be tempting to say, damn it, love, you suck. Why do I shouldn't let myself be happy because it brings up this pain? That's what's happening. That's what's happening. You have to trust that this keeps working. So look, I, in many ways, have healed and evolved and grown so much, but I still make these mistakes. These patterns still happen. I'm just pretty quick to catch it. And I'm pretty quick to say, like, I'm not an evil, awful person that I yelled. It isn't really acceptable. Let's look into why. Let's make those changes. So this shift is transcendent. It's a multidimensional reality where you're no longer guiding yourself based on, I don't get angry. I never drink. I never eat, da da. I'm always good. You know, these are all polarizations. You stop guiding yourself that way. You get angry sometimes. Keep it in check. Listen to the parts of yourself that are hurt. Give them attention. Help them heal. Keep going. Keep going. You want to stay happy? Commit to keeping going. Because you know how to take basic steps to be happy. Just afraid it'll get out of hand. Don't let it get out of hand. You know, keep it chill. Watch for the pain. Deal with the pain. Bring up the joy. Find those balances. And I encourage you to use yoga to make it happen. It's such a powerful tool. So I do invite you to consider committing 3 practices a week. And here's the cycle, folks. 3 practices a week of 20 minutes. Once you get that down for a while and you feel the need for more, add an hour. Now you're doing a 1-hour practice. Once you have a 1-hour practice with 3 20 minutes is, start considering making that 2 hours. One of those other ones, one of the other, so you have 1 hour and then another of those 20 minutes becomes an hour. So you carefully up it, but you don't do it with your head. Only make yourself with your mind do 3 20-minute practices. This is how to stay happy. Okay? Like you do it, you feel better, and then you deal with what that brings up. And you can always like almost mathematically identify, where do you get off the track? Where do you stop your practice? You'll find it. You'll be able to identify it and see it and go, oh, that's where I stopped. Just today, Emily Howard, who I went over to the Kevin Moore show right before here. I had a little time before the class and I saw this amazing comment she made that really speaks to me, right? And it brings up my sense of loss that I'm not making music recently. I'm just having trouble. I create space for it and I just don't want to. It doesn't work. And so in this course, a little bit ago, I tuned in and I asked Thoth what was wrong. And he gave me profound pieces of the answer. And I'm going to work with that and we'll see how it happens. And the reason I'm sharing that is because I feel like you can always trace back a stuckness, a loss, and identify where you got off track. You got the guidance you needed, but you didn't follow it. You were shown a wound and you decided, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to remember that. And then it stops the whole process. It stops raining. The water flow decreases, your life force decreases, everything goes a little number. Why? Why'd you stop your rain dance? Trace it back. See it. You probably got scared by something that hurts inside. Be willing to face it. I'm doing my best to create a space where we can make those commitments together. And I'm so glad that you're a part of it. Woo woo juju. Yes. You've rejected money too much. You don't need to reverse it. Money is a neutral energy. I'm going to give you medicine I just received. There's a book called Happy Money. I just saw an interview on the Michael Sandler show with the author. I'm going to encourage you to go watch it. It's amazing. Money is neutral. It's what you make of it. I'm almost tempted to say that's enough. That's like your biggest challenge right now. You could accept it and it's up to you. I encourage you to dream into a time when you have such an abundance that you're choosing to give it away in ways that are fun, that are happy. You're choosing to invest it in ways that you believe. And as a result, you're becoming something healthy with it. And you're just, you'll have to face the challenge to like not make bad decisions. And you might want to take a look. Have you limited yourself by struggling with money? Have you limited yourself in a way that feels safer to you? Has it prevented you from being powerful in a way that you fear? If you stare at those things honestly and just choose to restrain those aspects of yourself, choose to deal with them in a way that's healing. We never desire things that are bad for ourselves unless they seem to help us avoid pain. The only reason you have an unhealthy desire is because it's helping you cope with a pain inside yourself. There's nothing intrinsically attractive about having sex under really painful circumstances with someone who's suffering. But there's something attractive about that if you're suffering and your suffering resonates with their suffering and you get temporary relief from your suffering. So You don't need to fear your desires. You need to stare at them and be like, what? What is making me desire that? I think that you are afraid of being powerful because it's going to bring up, you'll have the power to feed desires that you're not comfortable with within yourself. And I encourage you to do both. Own it, forge forward, and trust that you can stare at this power within yourself and learn to channel it well. I think you've made more progress than you think, and you're ready to do this. I love you guys, really and truly. I was thinking this week, like, I wonder how they take it when I say it. I mean it. When I say it, love is fierce. Love is fierce. Love will bring up all the pain. I know it when I say it. It's up to you to take space when it's too much or when it's not right. I really want the best for you in life, and that includes the strength to face your darkness when you're alone, the strength to face your pain and heal it, the strength to ask for help when you need it, the strength to reach out for help again when you still need it the next week, the strength to ask several people because someone might say no. Don't let that stop you. I pray that you keep going and you keep opening to the trust and respect and love that you need so that you can be this beacon for others, so that you can be this wild flowing fire for everyone around you. Let yourself be it. Trust them to make their decisions. I trust you to take a break, to keep your distance for a while if this is too much for you. I trust you to pause the video, to decide you're not going to watch it live and you'll come back and watch it later. I trust you to take a month away when you need to. I have to. I have no other control. For the people in your life, be like that. Trust them to learn at their pace as you come to life. Do not stop waking up. Stop taking care of yourself. Do not stop loving yourself. Do not stop activating in fear that you'll leave everyone behind. Maybe you will, and maybe they'll catch up. Much love be with you and your family.